If you're dealing with heavy periods, bloating, mood swings, breast tenderness, PMS, you might have estrogen dominance. Now, this term gets thrown around a lot, and while it can explain some of your symptoms, a lot of people focus on the wrong things. They always try to lower estrogen, and in certain situations, that might actually make it worse. Hi, I'm Dr. Evelyn, your naturopathic doctor and your traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. In this video, I'm going to cover what estrogen dominance actually is, the root causes, and what you can do about it. So, what is estrogen dominance? Well, there's actually two types. There's absolute estrogen dominance and relative estrogen dominance. Absolute estrogen dominance means your estrogen is actually high. However, relative estrogen dominance is relative to progesterone. This typically happens when you're not ovulating, so you're not making enough estrogen. So relative to progesterone, you have too much estrogen. But sometimes the actual estrogen levels can be normal or even low. And this happened to me when I was having symptoms of PCOS back in the day, where I was having hot flashes, which is a symptom of low estrogen, but I was having estrogen dominance because I wasn't ovulating. So a lot of symptoms are going to overlap between the two, like PMS, irritability, mood swings, heavy periods, things like that, and breast tenderness. But there are some key differences. If you have relative estrogen dominance, you might actually also be experiencing symptoms of low estrogen, like vaginal dryness, hot flashes, low libido, and poor sleep. And if you have too much estrogen, like absolute estrogen dominance, you may feel a little bit puffier, a little bit more inflamed, and have maybe migraines as well. Now, what are some of these root causes of estrogen dominance? And for this, I'm trying something new and using a handy dandy whiteboard. So we got estrogen dominance, relative or absolute. And some of these causes are different. For example, for the relative cause, the first one we're going to talk about is leptin imbalance. So leptin is a hormone that tells your brain that you're having that food. And when I say imbalance, it's because it can either be low leptin, and that can happen when you undereat, when you have too little body fat, because leptin is made in the fat. So when you have too low body fat and you're not making enough leptin, your brain basically goes into starvation mode. And we have to conserve energy because you don't have enough clearly in your environment. So it stops ovulation. Now, the other side of the coin is leptin resistance. And that's sometimes when you have too much body fat, among other disruptions like circadian disruptions, where even though you're making enough leptin, your brain is not really reading it and it thinks it's starving. So again, it stops ovulation. Cause number two is stress. Now, this can be mental stress, like poor relationships, a bad boss, finances, or it can be physical stress, like under eating, overtraining, poor circadian regulation. You may even have past trauma that you have not really resolved yet. All these things raises your cortisol, which can interfere with a lot of your hormonal signaling and dampen ovulation signals and stop ovulation. And then we have circadian disruption. This is so important. This has to do with light and dark. We are supposed to be in natural light during the day and in darkness at night. And we have a lot of environmental light pollution, which again is a stressor to our system. When it comes to dysregulated, it confuses our system. It confuses the way the hormones are supposed to flow. So it can then trickle down to things like leptin resistance, to things like too much cortisol, causing again lack of ovulation, which is what you need to make progesterone. Then we get insulin resistance. So that has to do with blood sugar. When you eat too many carbs and fats together, especially a lot of carbs, you can really spike your blood sugar, which then spikes your insulin. And too much insulin in women causes your ovaries to make testosterone. And when you're making too much testosterone because of too much insulin, it can interfere with ovulation. And cause number 5, birth control. Hormonal birth controls artificially stop your ovulation. And sometimes when you go off of it, it doesn't just start again right away. It can take 3 to 6 months, sometimes even up to a year. That's just something to keep in mind if you are currently on birth control or you have recently gone off of birth control and you're having issues with fertility or ovulation. So what about the absolute side? Now, number 1, we have poor detox. So when we make estrogen, we also have to get rid of estrogen that we've made before. And this happens in the liver. The liver breaks down the estrogen, it goes into the gallbladder, and is excreted through the digestive system. So if you don't have enough vitamins and minerals for the liver to detoxify, that could be a problem right there. If you're constipated, if you're not going to the bathroom regularly, you could be reabsorbing old estrogen, creating too much estrogen in your body. Number 3 is xenoestrogens. Xeno is just a fancy word for foreign. So it's outside estrogen. This can be things like birth control, which is a foreign type of estrogen that stops your ovulation, or it can be things like phthalates and BPAs that are present in many plastics, many beauty products, many cleaning products. So a lot of these have different types of xenoestrogens that mimic the normal estrogen and interferes with hormonal signaling. So if you're exposed to a lot of these, it will sort of artificially increase your level of estrogen in the body. Finally, aromatase. This is an enzyme in the fat cells that makes estrogen. So if you have a lot of body fat with a lot of aromatase activation, you could be making more estrogen than your body really needs, causing absolute estrogen dominance. Now, here's the catch. If you are experiencing some of these things like circadian dysregulation, stress, birth control, past birth control use, and you're also exposed to xenoestrogens, you have too much body fat, and your detoxification pathways like some vitamins and minerals, then you could actually be experiencing both. You could have both too much estrogen and too low progesterone, causing symptoms of both. Now, we talked about all the causes here. What can you do about them? For leptin resistance, you want to eat enough and you want to eat protein and fat. So those are the stronger signals to tell your brain that there's plenty of food out there and it is safe to ovulate. For stress, well, stress management. You really need to take a look at what in your life is causing stress. If it's physical stress, like overtraining or undereating, those are pretty simple. Don't recover after training before you train again and eat enough calories. And if it's mental stress, that's a little bit deeper. If you have past trauma that you need to address, that's something that you really need to sit with yourself and figure out in your life what are the biggest sources of stress and find a support system or professional help to start dealing with that. When it comes to circadian dysregulation, this is all about being exposed to natural light. So going outside as much as possible, even if it's short breaks during work, in the weekends, however you can, getting morning light is especially important to tell the brain that it's the beginning of the day, and minimizing your artificial light pollution. So blacking out your room when you go to sleep, not using regular LED lights after dark. Just, if you can use red incandescent, that's the best, or fire. If you can't, then there's red LEDs. There's a lot of things you can do to try and minimize the effects of artificial lighting it has in your body. Insulin resistance, that's an easy one. Stop eating carbs, or at least lower them significantly. Well, birth control, that's really a personal choice. But if you have gone off of birth control, really what you need to do is focus on the other reasons. And as you make your body healthier, the ovulation will eventually return. And for the absolute, you get poor detox. This is all about supporting your own natural detoxification pathways. This is not about a green smoothie. It's about giving your liver the vitamins and minerals they need. Eat a nutrient-dense diet. You should be getting everything that you need. It's also making sure that you're going to the bathroom on a regular basis, and supporting some other ways of detoxifying, like through the skin, through sweat. You can go to the sauna, you can go outside under sunlight and sweat in the heat. Exercise can do that, and then make sure you take a shower after, and drinking enough water so you can detoxify through the kidneys and the urine. Xenoestrogens, that really has to do with lowering your exposure. It does have to do with detoxifying as well, because you do have to get them out, but at the very least, lowering your exposure to them. So things like switching out your food containers for glass or stainless steel, cooking on stainless steel or cast iron instead of the Teflon or other nonstick pans, looking at your beauty products and seeing if they have phthalates or any other chemicals that are disruptive to the endocrine system, which is the hormonal system. And lastly, aromatase, that has to do with body fat. A lot of things that we talked about on this side, like the diet, lowering your carbohydrates, fixing your circadian signaling, those things can be very powerful for weight loss as a side effect. So I would be careful with addressing aromatase first, because you don't really want to go into a low calorie diet. You don't really want to undereat, because undereating causes problems over here. So focus on here first. Eat enough, eat fat and protein, lower your carbs, fix your circadian signaling, and the weight loss will happen as a side effect of that, and that will address the aromatase issue. I know that was a lot. You don't have to do everything at once. Pick one or two things that you think it could be the most impactful in your life. My suggestions are always food and light, but if you have an immense amount of stress, that may be what is the best place to start for you. And if you want to learn more, if you want further guidance, I invite you to join my free school community, and you can get access to the first module of my hormone mastery course. And you get Q&As where you can ask me questions directly. So I hope to see you there, or I'll see you in the next one.